course.
Welcome everybody to the Hot Topic Huddle number 10, I believe it is.
I thought it was
I think it's 9.
10, I don't know. We try to have these every Tuesday, and I think next week, you'll hear about it. It'll be on next door. Anyway, I'm Janice Bruno, and I'm actually the Executive Director for the Smithville Community Clinic. I've been doing that for about 10 years, and also am a City Council member. And I also sit on the workforce training, I do workforce training about 20 hours a week. So, you know, a variety of jobs, and just love doing Hot Topic Huddles to hear from the community. And tonight we're going to have a very special meeting. But before we get started, I want to thank Andy, because Andy's videoing tonight, and there are people that call that said they want this video, they want to be able to see it. That's how important mental health is. So what I want to do first is briefly go around the table, introduce yourself. You know, you're from Smithville, just a little bit about yourself before we get started. And you have an agenda. So we're going to do introductions. And then why are we here? We're going to do a quick overview of mental health, and that'll be by Sydney Starling, who is one of our LPC, Licensed Professional Counselor Supervisors. She's been doing this business for 30 plus years. Lots and lots of experience, so thank you for coming tonight. Our Behavioral Health Director, Charity Rogers, she's on a little vacation. So, Sydney, I appreciate you being here tonight. And then I'll be introducing you to Diana Villalobos. She's one of our behavioral health advocates and patient navigators for our Spanish-speaking community, which I wish we had some more Spanish speakers here tonight. And then she's going to cover some of the Smithville Community Clinic trends. So let's just go around the table real briefly and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Charlene Shaler. I'm the Wesley nurse here. I also sit on the clinic board, and I sit on the workforce board. That's enough.
Thank you, Charlene. Sydney.
And I'm Sydney Starling, the LPC supervisor at the clinic. I've been a therapist, marriage and family therapist for over 35 years.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate you being here. Monica.
I'm Monica Poss. I live in Smithville, and I think therapists rock.
Ms. Clover.
I'm Clover. Mental health is very important to me. I lived here in Smithville for a couple of years with my mom. It's something that I care a lot about.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Sharon Sheeta, fairly new to Smithville, and I was just curious because my mother was bipolar and there's a lot of depression in the family.
Thank you for coming tonight. So these are every Tuesday, so it's a different topic every Tuesday. So.
Yeah, I've been coming to the meetings on Tuesdays.
Yeah, thank you.
Some of them.
Joanna.
I'm Joanna Morgan. I'm also on the clinic board and on the workforce board, and also work with Charlene and Janice on the health initiative.
There you go.
For Smithville.
My name's Gary Beecham. I'm a life licensed, certified, whatever, special education teacher. My long journey through mental health was joining the Army and being in the largest mental health institute in the world, because there's a lot of people with issues in the Army. And I spent 23 years in the classroom as a special education teacher dealing with children who have behavioral problems. I've been an EMT, I've been a drug counselor, a social worker, a bunch of stuff. And my main concern in this country is mental health.
Thank you, Gary. I got to tell you a little bit about Gary. Back in 2018, when we received the first grant through the clinic, through AmeriCares, and we actually started and built the department for mental health. Gary he and Herb Goldsmith, who now works for Bluebonnet Trails, were our first two folks that came on board as volunteers to help us. And Gary we had a sign out in front of the library, and it was coffee with the counselor. And Judy had a little room set aside so Gary could talk with people that would come into the clinic, into the library, because she sees probably a lot of the same people that we see. And Gary, you did a great job, and we appreciate you doing that.
Strangely enough, I was speaking to somebody at Dell the other day, and they asked about coffee with the counselor. And we had
that I can explain some of that. When we were applying for the Library for Health grant from the St. David's Foundation, we use the Coffee with the Counselor as an example of programs that we do at the library. And people were impressed with it.
It's
So
St. David's.
it's something
Yeah.
that the Libraries for Health is trying to bring in peer support specialists that will be in the library. And so it'll be a similar program. So I think that's part of it. So,
Yeah, that was 5 years ago. So
Yes.
Thank you, Gary.
so
So we're gonna go ahead and let Miss Sydney go ahead and share a little bit of her wisdom. I'm gonna just
Well, it's kind of funny because I wasn't real sure what sure you wanted to do. So yesterday I saw that email go around about the Surgeon General's website. So I combed through that and thought, this is just a bunch of lot of information and a lot of statistics. And so this morning, as I was getting ready, I thought, this is what I wanted to say. So when I went into this profession about 35 years ago, I believed at the time there were like two options. Therapists could either pull weeds or plant flowers. And so I decided that I wanted to be the one that planted the flowers. But obviously I learned that you end up doing a little bit of both, no matter what. And I think that's important to address. So as I was looking over yesterday, I thought, knowing the statistics of like suicide, alcohol and drug abuse, mental health issues in children, and all the depression and anxiety issues that we see, we need to know about that because that helps us pull the weeds, right? But planting the flowers requires us to be proactive. So it requires us to recognize that these issues are real in our community and try to do something before we see these things come to fruition. That would certainly put me out of work. That would be great, right? So I started thinking about, well, so what do we have to do? You know, it seems like and some of these things already exist, so I'm not like talking like they're not there. But we have to go into our schools and we have to reach our young people and we have to let them know that there are connections that they can have and that they're not alienated, and which is a huge factor in youth mental health. These kids come home and there may be nobody there for them. School may be the only place that they have any kind of connection with people. So we need to recognize that. We need to recognize that our community has marginalized people and that marginalized people are at much more risk for anxiety and depression and suicide than other people are. So we need to look at that. It seems like if we can recognize the problems that are under the surface and deal with them before they warp into suicide or mass shootings in schools, that we would be achieving good mental health for our community. And so, I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I think that's probably what these kind of meetings are about, for people to kind of come together and figure out how we mentor, how we remain open and have open arms and open hearts that let people know that they're not alone and that they can that there are places they can go to and come for assistance. And that's why I love working I was in private practice in Dallas for 28 years before I came here, and I love working for the clinic, and I love this community. I think that I've never seen a community that has so much outreach. I mean, I just spent the day at Helping Hands. You know, we had 2 people all day, but that's okay. You know, I mean, those
Want to explain Helping Hands? Tell people
Helping
what that
Hands
is.
is in the parsonage for the church, the Smithville, for United Methodist Church, and we give diapers and formula and baby clothes and things like that out to people that need it. And so even though we only had 2 people today, it's like that was 2 people that came in and needed diapers and formula. So that kind of outreach in this community, I think, makes people know it's a community that cares. So certainly over the years, I've seen the focus in mental health change a lot, and I hope and believe we're going in the right direction. I think the stigma of therapy is lessened significantly in the last 30 years. And I think people are more willing to reach out. So I think we just have to keep that out there.
So before we move on, are there any questions for Sydney at this time?
So I would agree that the stigma has lessened significantly in the last 30 years, which is about when I started therapy ago. But I know it still persists to some degree, and I'm curious if coffee with the counselor is less threatening from a stigma perspective than making an appointment with a mental health professional at the clinic.
I think it is. And I also think that the other thing that we're seeing is that while I may be old school, because I'm old, it's like the whole new stuff about texting. People are texting. They don't even ever see a counselor face to face. They feel more comfortable texting back and forth or chatting on their computer, and they open up. And I probably, the way I was schooled, would have never thought, oh my goodness, that's not therapy. But that reduces the stigma.
But doesn't it reduce the efficacy as well because you lose so much with body language?
That's
No,
what I would
it's
say.
easy
Yeah.
That's what I would say, old school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you asked me that, I'd be like, I want to see him. I want him in my office.
See the
I
eye
think that's
twitch.
important. But I think that that's part of that stigma thing. If there's 50 people that reach out via a text and talk about feeling suicidal or depressed or whatever that would have never made an appointment, then we've achieved something there. So I agree. I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that as therapy, but I can conceive of that and open up to that as, helpful for people that might reach out and not reach out under
So it
other
fills a gap.
circumstances. Exactly.
But we don't still do coffee with a counselor, do we?
We can
No,
start
but
it
we
back
have the
up.
Libraries
Yeah,
for
it's
Health
real easy to start
program,
up.
and the intent of the Libraries for Health program is to place a peer support specialist in the library. So, and it'll work on the same idea as Coffee with the Counselor,
Yeah.
that they are here, and anybody that wants to come talk to them, they're getting to know our patrons, they're getting to make them feel comfortable with the idea. But we have not received our peer support specialist yet. I think they've gone to the drawing board 4 times to find somebody who could work in our community, and struck out all 4 times. So we're still hoping, and then in the meantime we are improvising with other common thread, for instance, where we can sit around the table and be using a makerspace and creating, all while we're having community conversations.
So something else we could do, well, you're saying this, we do have 3 interns now, or 3 interns now that are at the House of Ruth that Sydney supervises, that take incoming calls, or they case manage, okay? And you're the supervisor, correct? So, I mean, we could talk to Charity, we could put somebody here, over here again, just get with Judy. It's a simple fix. Right now we're at the House of Ruth, but easily could move over here and have somebody here
That's
for now
appropriate.
until they get somebody. So before we move to Diana, in the interest of time, yes, ma'am.
I just had a small comment about the text-based therapy thing. Is that I think, at least in my generation, which is probably most of the people who would feel more comfortable over text-based communication, while the stigma of therapy has mostly gone away, there is a fear that you will be put on the spot in therapy, or not accused, but have someone confront you in a way you're fundamentally uncomfortable with. And if you're going to therapy for something like anxiety, that can already be pretty rough. Among the people I know who prefer text-based communication in general, it's largely people who appreciate having a moment to be able to collect their thoughts, and then look back over what they're trying to say, so that they can feel that it is an accurate representation of themselves and not something they feel like they have to say to answer a question.
All I would say is if you know anybody who's in therapy with a therapist and they feel like they have to say something, then they need to go find another therapist. Because it needs to go at their own pace.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions for Missy?
What is the House of Ruth?
The House of Ruth is the church building at the end of MLK that originally was set up for a women's transitional shelter. It was an experiment, lasted about 2 years, and when that did not work out, we converted it now into the mini community resource center. There's music lessons there on Mondays, and then the behavioral health interns are there, and there's groups that are also done at the House of Ruth. So it's the First United Methodist Church had donated that to the clinic, and it's the building that's all mosaicked. It's down at the end of MLK. As you cross the tracks and you turn left on MLK, it's right there on the corner. And we call that the House
okay.
of Ruth. Or it's the old Hearts Chapel.
Okay. No, I was curious because we had a House of Ruth where I came from, and that's what it was. It was a transition.
Transitional. Nice. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and it's now 6:24 while we're going quickly. Diana, I'll introduce Diana Villalobos. And if you can spell her last name, good luck. Diana has been with us now since 2019. And she also works for Head Start. She's a busy lady. She's everywhere in the community. She's our patient navigator, Spanish translator. She works the clinics, and she's got a lot of experience working with the Spanish community. So I want her to share some clinical statistics with you and then maybe tell a few anecdotal stories about some of the clients that she sees.
Okay, and so part of what I do for the behavioral health side of it, I'm a behavioral health coach. And it's not therapy, so it's basically providing emotional support to people and active listening. So what I do is focusing on present day challenges. So what is happening now? And if I feel like the person needs more than what I can offer, then I go and I do the referral to the counselors. They're the experts. So sometimes people just need someone to talk to, you know, and it's not easy to do. It's not easy to talk about feelings. And and I see it, you know, it happens in all the cultures, and in my experience, it wasn't talked about, you know, what to do if you're feeling a certain way, you know. And I love the Head Start program because they do talk about feelings, and they talk about identifying those feelings to the little ones. So they start since babies, and we name those feelings and we tell them what to do. And one of the things that we show them what to do is the breathing techniques. We do it in a way that they don't know they're doing it. So we tell them about the balloon. So they have to get the balloon really big, and then they can either pop the balloon or get the air out. Anything that can get them to take a deep breath and exhale. We also tell them to smell the flowers and blow the candles. So that's a creative way of doing it. And we have a special area for them so they can go and they can, you know, look at the pictures. We do have pictures about smiley face, sad face, and then the teacher can go and talk to them about that. So that's something that a lot of us, you know, we didn't get when we were little. And so talking about feelings is something that is not easy to do. So I think that when I started with the clinic, I started building that relationship with the Spanish speakers. And I started doing the behavior coaching in December.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty new to it. And at first I thought, am I ready for this? But I found out that I was already doing it with those families with Head Start. I was already helping them setting goals and helping them on the everyday difficulties that they were facing and listening to them and helping them understand that, you know, there's more than one way to get things done, you know, and because some people feel like I already tried it this way, there's no other way. So opening their minds to knowing about the resources that are available. A lot of times is people not knowing what's available. And so I enjoy I have been enjoying it very much. I'm able to work with 5 people. And so so far some of the statistics that Charity asked me to share is that 60% of the screenings indicate low to medium levels of depression or anxiety. Everybody who comes to the clinic, we do an intake, and it helps us to, we do a behavioral health intake, and it helps us to ask those questions. So it's a conversation opener. And it says of those, 25% discuss at least one adult trauma episode. 25% indicate low to medium substance abuse disorder. 25% indicate drinking more than they believe they should. 50% of our screenings indicate relation problems. Relational problems between spouses, parent-child, etc. Around 5% have expressed recent suicidal thoughts.
Can I stop one?
Sure.
So those stats are just as of now. So back in 2018, as we were seeing patients when we first started, this is when Gary and Herb were there, we actually did a count back then. And at that time, we did a study of 286 patients that had come through the clinic. And at that time, 3% were presenting for suicidal ideation. So it's interesting now that our number is up to 5%. And I want to say depression pretty much stayed where it is, about 60% depression. And I want to say it might have been like 35% anxiety. So based on this screening tool, I mean, we really haven't changed much from where we were in 2018. So in fact, we've gone up on the anxiety and the suicidal ideation.
And looking at those numbers, either we're doing a better job at identifying and getting people to come in, which to me sounds like a good number. Because if we're not seeing those people,
We're seeing.
you know, then you have a lot more problems.
Yeah, our numbers are really up. I mean, between all 4 clinics, we saw over 1,500 patients last year, and that was in all clinics. So there's 4. There's the mental health clinic, there's the dental clinic, the medical clinic, and the Well Women's Clinic. So the numbers are up. And I want to say every licensed professional counselor, their caseload right now is maxed out, but that doesn't mean you won't get in to see a counselor. You might talk to an intern first and then get on a short wait list and then be able to see a counselor.
Well, and I'll say that this internship program is going to be amazing for us. I'm hoping that we can just build that. This internship program will be students that are completing their practicums, the master's level students completing their last semesters of practicum, which requires them to get 300 hours. These kids have to go out and find their own practicums. And I'm a marriage and family therapist supervisor and a licensed professional counsel supervisor, so we can pull these kids in, you know, and some of them aren't kids, some of them are returning to school later on in life, but we don't have to pay them. And because they're supervised, I always feel like they get kind of a twofer, you know. They're not only very good at what they're doing, is what we've been seeing, the caliber of interns that we've been getting, but then they also have supervision so that we can like think of things. So I'm hoping we can really continue to build that.
So we're truly blessed in Smithville because Bluebonnet Trails, who's got 17 different Bluebonnet facilities throughout Texas. I don't know how many counties, 17 counties or whatever it is. They are so maxed out with clients that now we're getting their calls. They're referring people to us. And I will have to kudos for the 3 LPCs that we've got, the interns that we have, and Charity managing the caseload so that not one person is turned away. And speaking to that, and I'm going to surprise Sydney if she hadn't heard this yet, but Charlene and Joanna have, we want to reach out into Fayette and Lee County because Charity's vision is therapy for all. Most of the charitable clinics in the state of Texas, there's over 70 free and charitable clinics. There's only like maybe 2 or 3 of us that are integrating behavioral health, okay, that actually have integrated behavioral health where you go in to see a physician. I mean, they're getting the full scope here. If they need to come in and see a counselor, but they're coming in for medical or a dental, the whole body's taken care of, to include spiritual, because we actually pray with a lot of the patients that come. So where I'm going with this is that the foundations are very interested now because we've got mental health deserts, especially in Fayette County, in Schulenburg, Flatonia. There aren't any LPCs at all. There aren't any interns. You know, they're out there. So they've asked us for help now, and I've sort of given the warning order to Charity that, hey, you might get some calls from these other areas, but they won't get turned away. They'll call this behavioral health number that's on the flyer, and they'll get Christy, or if they're Spanish speaking, they're going to get Diana. Or,
And we have a Spanish speaking intern.
yeah.
What do you do when someone needs meds? You don't have a psychiatrist on staff, do
We
you?
do.
You do now?
We have a we're so blessed. The Presbyterian Church minister, Dr. David Brown, is her husband, and he runs a hospital in Austin, and he is our psychiatrist if we need him.
Whoa,
So is he's a,
God,
does he actually?
that's great.
He's helped
He is
with a
a
handful of
psychiatrist
folks.
or is he just a
We
prescriber?
can
He-
do,
he
we
can
can
do
do,
both.
yeah, he's
Okay.
a psychiatrist, and then we also have that, where is it? It's a different place, another clinic where they can do
Willow Springs?
where they can get a referral to the psychiatrist there, but they have to
Yes.
pay something for
Yes.
that, so.
But Dr. Brown's free, and I think we've only used him a couple times.
Right.
But he comes on Sunday. He's seen a patient on Sunday before when he comes in with his wife does the preaching and then he goes and does the teaching. I mean, you know, it's beautiful. So anyway, go ahead, Diana. You're doing a great job.
Okay, so it says that this year we have referred approximately 3 clients to residential care for suicidal ideation. We have been able to engage about 75% of those showing a need in therapy sessions. Others stated they did not want services or were referred elsewhere. And it says to assist, they want to engage more students and interns to increase capacity.
We just talked about.
Yeah, focusing on specialized trainings such as trauma recovery or couples counseling. And they have engaged approximately 10 couples in therapy this year. These sessions focus on managing conflict, increased ability to express personal needs, and overcoming trauma. The need is growing and we need funding to meet the need. And that's one thing that Janice, she's very good about applying for those grants, and the need is growing. We have seen more and more people reaching out for help, and that is a good thing. What I do, I'm a family advocate, and I have other family advocates in other centers. We do needs assessments, and it helps us to know if a family is in need of talking to someone. And so they know that they have that flyer, and they can just give them the flyer, and they know they can call that number or text. And so I think it's good to know that there's a place where we can refer people and that they're gonna be helped.
You want to tell one story? Do you have a certain story you can tell us about a family that you've helped with a counselor? How you partner?
So I'm coaching a person that she started out not being sure about, okay, am I ready for this? Because of her time schedule. And I said, I can work with your schedule. You just tell me what works for you. And so we talk sometimes at 7 p.m., you know, whatever works for her. Or sometimes she works late. And at work, it's just very unpredictable. And we started about 3 months ago. And she hasn't missed once. And if she can make it for some reason, she'll tell me, oh, can you call me tomorrow? She's excited about having our sessions. And she asked me one day, she said, how do I know if I'm ready to be done with it? And I said, you know, it's up to you. If you feel like you need to talk, because every week is different, you know, there's different challenges that happen, and so you just never know how it's gonna be. Sometimes it's like one thing after another that piles up. And she said, well, I feel like I still need to talk to you. So I said, that's good. So as long as you want it, I'll be here for you. And she has that trust to tell me. I know at first she couldn't talk about something. She felt like she had something in her throat that just couldn't let her speak. But after I said, you don't have to tell me anything that you don't want, you know. And little by little, like, she started opening up. And so she looks forward to that, and that lets me know that I'm helping her. So we are there for them as long as they need us.
So Diana did go through what's called screening brief intervention training. It's not like she's been through a lot of hours of training that a grant paid for. So we were able to get a grant through AmeriCares. So all the coaches have been through training. So it's, you know, I mean, probably anybody could take the training. I want to say it's not that, well, it was about $1,500 per person, wasn't it, at the time? So we went ahead and trained anybody that's actually doing like what she's doing. Okay, so she got a certification to do that.
We also have Christy. She couldn't be here today. And she does also, besides the behavioral health coaching, she also does addiction coaching. And so I think that part is amazing because it's a part that, you know, if someone is ready to talk about it and have that support, she's there. And I think we have a very complete group of professionals that can help people.
And we'll train folks that are interested. We'll put you through the training.
Do you have to have a BA or any kind of background?
No, AmeriCares, I don't believe they required.
I don't know, but that would be for the coaching
Yeah,
stuff.
I think, yeah, they didn't have a prerequisite for that, but it's called, it was expert training. It's through AmeriCares, screening, brief intervention, and coaching training. And so we applied for that grant, and then we were able to train some of the clinic personnel to do that. So.
And the peer support specialist, an organization called VIAHOPE, VIAHOPE. Part of the grant will provide the training. It just has to be a person with lived experience. And then they can get in. They have to be at least 21. And ideally, they can be bilingual, but if they're not, we can use a translator. So I can get access to the application if somebody's interested. But the peer support specialist is similar to the emotion coach. It is someone with lived experience, but it's not as high level as the professional psychologist or psychiatrist, but it is much better than just hanging out with your friends and talking with your friends. So it gives you a spectrum or a continuum of what level of care is available. And they will be here at the library. So if you know anybody that's interested in getting the training, it's a paid position, and it starts out part-time, and then with the hope of eventually moving to full-time.
Cool. So we were going to just have some general conversation, because we've got about 10 minutes. The general conversation is, does anybody have like any stories or how they either received help or helped somebody else? I mean, just engaged.
I have a question.
I'm sure you do.
I have a question because I hear a lot of good stuff, and one of the things I thought that you brought up was how do we connect?
Yes, how do we connect?
How do we connect? How do we get the local population to see that, number one, that we're here, but what our services are. Now, you've been doing, with the clinic. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, we're not getting it out enough, so just
But-
so between us, I just hired Anna Murray. I just hired Anna Murray. She's gonna really start getting the word out for us. And, well, I'm real excited about that. So she's gonna be doing all of our social media posts, our Instagram posts, because we try to get it out there, but flyers and that kind of stuff, but
Mhm.
now we're gonna push it to the next level.
Explain
you
Anna's
people are gonna-
background for
Huh?
the people that haven't met her. Explain Anna's background.
Well, you probably could explain it better, but because
How do you
worked with
explain
a lot of-
Anna?
Well, she was with the school
She
district.
worked with the school, yeah, yeah.
She's been a principal. She's been curriculum developer. Most recently, she's been before she retired and moved to Colorado with her dog. She was the sort of public interface person for the school district. She's a very dynamic lady, just great, outgoing, never meets a stranger, excellent speaker,
Yeah.
and she has started her own communications company, media communications, and she was doing some of that before she left Smithville, and is continuing to do that from Colorado.
So
you know,
we're
Janice,
very excited.
Judy, and myself have dealt with this mental health situation for some time, and actually it was kind of the start of the whole health partnership with the suicide at the school. You know, the young man that committed suicide several years back. But we've had groups from different rehab places here. In fact, I don't know, what do we have, 8 or 10 groups that attended a meeting here, and all of them are grasping for more help. How do we help? We are inundated. We don't, you know, it's amazing to see what's out there, and yet there's not enough help out there. If that makes sense, but that's how it is, you know. So.
Well, and I think part of the problem, and this may just be my bias, if it is, I'll own it, but I think that part of the problem too is the shift and change in the school systems and the education and the emphasis and the way they teach and the time that they have to do it. God bless the teachers. It doesn't, even though the schools have invited us in, it seems like we kind of get our little pinky in the door, but nothing ever opens up again. And I don't think it's because they don't care as much as maybe it's just because they maybe can't figure out how, or they maybe just don't have the time or the resources to figure that out. But I think that's where we kind of need to be.
We need to be there, and that dialogue has happened many times.
Yes.
And we had money to put people into the school, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think we need to push it again,
It's just sad.
because with everything going on, we could put a counselor at every grade. And we're getting funding, so it's like, why would you turn something like this down? Let's figure it out and let's do it. Because the school counselors are just what they're educational counselors. They're
All they
not
do is
licensed
testing
counselors.
and I mean, they are
Yeah.
so busy doing
Yes.
everything. My sister was a school counselor for 25 years. It's like her job morphed into just nothing but testing, boxing up tests, all that.
I had a situation that I witnessed at school. I was there for what I do, the flu shots and the COVID shots and all of that. And I was in a office, and a young girl, she must have been 10, I guess, came in the office and said, "I need to see the counselor." The woman behind the desk never looked up, never made eye contact, never even looked at the little girl, and said, "Well, you're going to have to wait because she's not here now." Now, what did that do? What did that little girl, where did she go? What did she need? And I couldn't do, I couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
But it really, that has sat with me for a very long time.
Teachers in this district, when I taught here, I opened up the first behavioral program for the district. I had kids in there that were so obviously depressed. They had drug and alcohol problems, but I couldn't mention that to the parent or in an ARD or anywhere for the school because they're afraid to be sued. Because if you take a child, and this happened in San Antonio, to a facility without the parents' permission, which is illegal, or the students or the school district know what's going on, they had headhunters in San Antonio that got arrested for this. We don't have anything in the school districts. I had students that were a psychiatric mess, and I couldn't say anything about it as a teacher. As a social worker, I made phone calls, and I got yelled at a lot. And I see these same kids being walked out the door with police officers holding them up and their little feet not even touching the ground because they have a drug and alcohol problem. At home, mom's had 10 children, she's locked up. All the kids are spread out among relatives. And what do you do as a teacher? You're not allowed to. That's the problem.
And that's not just district influence.
No.
It's statewide.
It's statewide.
Nationwide. Right.
Statewide.
Yes.
So what do we do can we interface with the school?
We keep trying.
You know, you would think
We
at
will
some point or
continue
another.
to try. We will continue to
Bumper has a
pursue.
comment.
I was just going to say, when I was in high school, there was sort of an incident,
Mhm.
not big or anything, but there was a student who wrote about a trauma they'd had for an English assignment.
Mhm.
And without talking to the student at all,
Mhm.
our English teacher contacted the student's parents,
Mhm.
brought them in and had them sit down with the principal. It was a
Mhm.
small school, and attempted to talk about this thing without having a conversation with the student first.
Mhm. Mhm.
And after that happened, that student came and warned the rest of us
Mhm.
because they said that I'm very lucky
Mhm.
that neither of my parents were the abuser or perpetrator in this situation. But I know people who have that.
Mhm.
And if my parents had been brought in and they were hurting me, and this teacher sprung this on both of us, I could have been very seriously hurt.
Mhm.
And the rest of the school more or less decided to not write about anything sensitive in English
Mhm.
class ever again.
Mhm.
And I think it's worth taking that into consideration when we talk about how much or little
Mhm.
we're able to help students, that unless the student can be brought in first and actively consent to anything that's
Mhm.
going on, just surprising someone with care that
Mhm.
makes us feel better to give is can be very dangerous.
Teachers are not trained for this. They're not.
Good.
That's the problem.
Very good.
We take courses in human growth and development, and then we get into the classroom, and we're not taught how to deal with the traumas these students have. Unless you, as a child yourself, have seen the trauma, felt the trauma, as a teacher, that's the only experience you have. It's what you've personally learned from your life. It's not like you go to 101 mental health. It's not there. And that's what's sad, because we're the front line as teachers. Every kid comes through a school district somewhere. And we either feed them, we medicate them, we try to educate them, but we're not allowed to help them in that realm.
And so it seems to me like, thank goodness for people like you and Head Start and getting the little ones like that and teaching them those things. And to your point, if there was just a way to get the message to the students via assemblies or talking to their classes or so that then they knew, write this number down. If you ever need help, they all have a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever need help, you can call us. You don't have to go through the teacher. You don't have to write a paper. You don't have to, obviously we have to have parental kinds of things legally if they're underage. That doesn't mean they can't call us first. That doesn't mean we can't talk to them.
Right.
And then,
So maybe we can get that word out through the school, because we've gone to the school, we've talked to the superintendent, we've tried to get therapists in there, so maybe the other route would be, let's get the number in this, so they can at least call and talk to somebody. That's, I think a lot of what's going on with the young people now is this connection. Just having that person to talk to, that trusted person to talk to. And cause there's a lot of loneliness.
well, every school should have, which, I don't know if they do or not, but every school on the back of that bathroom stall, when they close that door, should have the human trafficking hotline, should have the suicide prevention hotline.
That's a great idea.
And one out in Smithville, one out the Smithville Community Clinic.
We can mention this to the Shack, to Margarita Ugo. She's the leader for the Student Health Advisory, but I think that's a brilliant start. That'd be a great, anybody else have some other thoughts?
I was just wondering, if you're not able to get in the schools, are you able to hold like workshops for the teachers? So they may know what direction to go if they come across
we could
something?
We could
And
do
maybe
that.
how to deal with it a little bit better.
It's a great idea. Thank you.
And we did try to contact them. They were working with a group that is regional, the Texas Education Association, Region 13, has already contracted with a group that is trying to do that. I might learn more through the district improvement plan meeting that we have later this week, and see if that is one of the avenues that they want for campus improvement or district improvement.
Or
And
even have a
maybe I
meeting
can
like this
suggest it, yes.
at a hot topic huddle and invite the teachers. We could do it. You'll come back. We'll have the other therapists come back. We do have this great resource, and I think we could really make it more robust. So.
I think it would give the teachers at least information that they could pass on to their students if they think that there might be an issue.
There's also a sort of peer advocacy service called White Flag that it's anonymous peer counseling. That if there's a student whose parents won't give consent, or who might struggle to use a suicide hotline, that can be very useful.
Is that White Flag? Do you have a QR code or anything for that?
I don't, but you can look it up. That's the name
White
of the
Flag.
organization.
Good to know. Okay. So we have some good, let's just wrap it up. We have some good suggestions. Get the number out, right? And possibly host a workshop or similar to this to talk to our teachers. And maybe Margarita can help us do that through the Shack. Yeah, and they hold their meetings monthly. So.
Well, the new suicide, the old one is still alive, but 988
988.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
has come on board.
Thank you
Yeah.
for
So,
reminding us
yeah.
of that. 988. Thank you, Clover.
Thank you.
We
I
appreciate
think
it.
before you wrap up, your final line,
Oh, thank you, Judy.
we are part of the Smithville
Oh,
Whole
yeah.
Health Partnership,
Yeah.
and we are working with the Methodist Health Ministry to formalize this health collaborative. And part of that is to have a steering committee that is comprised of people with lived experiences in whatever avenues of health that we're interested in looking at. Mental health is one of the focuses.
Right.
So
Thank you.
if anybody that qualifies as a person with lived experience and is interested in serving on the steering committee, talk to Janice or to myself, and we'll
We'd
see
love to
about
have
getting
you.
you on. So yeah, we're looking at you, Clover.
Lived experience, does that mean that you've gone through whatever it is yourself?
Yes, yeah.
I
So,
promise.
I wasn't sure if it
don't
was that or
beat
just being older.
no, sometimes
But
that's
I've
it too.
had experience with physical and mental health issues.
Okay, well, you lived it. Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody coming tonight.
A
Judy's
couple
got
other
one other.
resources that I want to share. Bastrop County Family Expo and Resource Fair is coming up on June 10th. And then citywide for the all the different summer activities that are going on in Smithville. And hopefully that'll include the Smithville Community Clinic. They might have some information about sun safety, summer safety, things like that. That'll be going on at the rec center on June
Anna Marie
9th.
will post.
So it'll be a busy week, but
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again,